Welcome to the AI Shift, a show looking at the seismic changes happening in healthcare with artificial intelligence at the epicenter. I'm your host, Tom Foley. Join me and my guests as we look at key cultural and policy shifts impacting how providers, payers, and patients connect, as well as how care is being reimagined both for today and for the future. And now, the AI Shift. Welcome. You're listening to the AI Shift. I am your host, Tom Foley. We have a very interesting guest on today, Tharun Kumar Nallamothu, who is a subject matter expert in the AI arena, software engineering side of the house. First off, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So, Tharun, you had written an article which caught my eye. It's called Bridging the Gap Between AI Innovation and Clinical Workflow Integration. The article is published on Health IT Answers, and I thought it would be great for you to come on and answer a couple of questions about the article and further educate the audience on what we should be looking for with in context of AI in healthcare. So, looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you so much, Tom, for the introduction. Yes, I'm glad to be here. As you mentioned, I'm also excited to discuss more on the article that I have written. And, let's talk and roll.
Before I ask the first question, just give the audience a 30-second, 1-minute summary of, give them some background as your subject, where your background and your subject matter expertise, so that we have context.
Yes, definitely. So my name is Tharun Kumar Nallamothu, and I am a healthcare AI researcher and published author. I have been publishing articles, and also, as Tom mentioned, Healthcare IT News has also few of articles of mine. I'm also an inventor and a conference speaker. My recent articles examines the journey from AI innovation to a real-world healthcare impact. Suppose why organizations struggle to integrate AI into clinical workflows, why many AI systems fails, those kind of articles that I have written, and would like to talk more on those.
Yeah, for sure. You state in the article, and I'll read it specifically, despite rapid advancement in machine learning models, many healthcare organizations continue to struggle with translating AI innovation into measurable outcomes in real world clinical settings. Tell us a little bit more about what you mean with that statement.
Definitely. As we know today, everybody is talking about integrating AI in every outflow. So healthcare is not exception for it. So applications, I think the biggest misconception in that once you have a highly accurate AI model, I mean, the hard work is done. In reality, that's often where the real challenge begin, actually. It doesn't mean you have AI, everything gets solved. Healthcare environments are incredibly complex compared to all other environments out there. Clinical work across electronic health records or legacy systems or regulatory requirements and highly sensitive workflows. Even if an AI model performs well in testing, it may struggle to create value if it's not integrated into the way clinicians actually work. For example, if an AI solution requires additional clicks, forces user to switch between systems or introduce delays during patient care. Adoption tends to drop quickly. Clinicians are focused on delivery care, so technology has to fit naturally into their workflow rather than requiring a workflow to adapt to the technology. The organization today, they see the most success are shifting their focus from model centric thinking to system centric thinking. They're so that they're asking not only how accurate is the model, once you integrate AI, it's not about how accurate, but also how will this fit into the current flow? How will clinicians actually interact with it? Ultimately, the measurable outcome come from combining strong AI capabilities with thoughtful workflow integrations and governance and operational readiness. So that's how organizations move from interesting pilots to real clinical impact.
Interesting. What do you think about the you made mention of how AI needs to kind of blend in with the current physician workflow? What are your thoughts on how AI potentially can replace some of the clinical workflows where providers are operating at a higher level in their licensure, as they say, versus doing some of the more remedial, low complexity, low risk type of encounters?
I mean, absolutely. So one of the biggest lessons we have learned across healthcare technology is that clinicians don't want some other applications or more applications to manage. Their primary focus is to patient care. That's what draws the line. And their day is already structured around establishing workflows, EHR system, documenting requirements, and time-sensitive decisions, right? When AI is introduced, a separate destination that requires additional, for example, if it's a apps or if it's a websites, they need additional logins, extra work from there. The most successful healthcare system tend to blend naturally into the way clinicians already work, rather than asking
Hmm.
users or clinicians to adapt to the technology.
Yeah,
That's why I often say that, healthcare AI success is less about creating the smartest model and more about creating the best workflow experience if clinicians barely notice the technology but consistently benefit from it. For me, that's usually a sign the solution has been integrated effectively.
interesting. So you do make a mention about healthcare environments are inherently fragmented. I'll just agree with you in the context of, to your point in the article, several health systems, why they might claim to be an Epic shop, but the reality is that it's Epic and multiple others that are integrated. For some health systems, it might be pure Epic, but at the other end of the spectrum, there are a lot of health systems out there that have multiple EHRs. So your data, as you say, fragmented. Well, it wasn't a subject matter. It wasn't an alignment with your article, but it does raise an interesting question about, not only fragmented across EHRs, but, even that set of EHRs may not contain all of your health information, right? As an example, we talked earlier, I lived in Raleigh and lived in New Jersey and live in Florida, right? So my health records relative to my life are in 3 different states and many different EHRs, right? So, but there are new interoperability standards, new interoperability platforms, the QHIN, Commonwealth, Care Quality, even SureScripts from a medication perspective. How do you think interoperability helps or hurts the AI story, if you will, in the context of establishing context of the patient across those many different data sources?
I mean, good question actually. So, I mean, yes, it's hard to move around states and find that interoperability. Actually, I think interoperability is one of the most important enablers of healthcare AI. As you mentioned, right? Most patients receive care from multiple providers across different health systems. Either geographic region or maybe different EHR platforms. As a result, a patient health information is often distributed across many systems rather than residing in a particular single record. Historically, that fragmentation has made it difficult for clinicians to go get a complete picture of the patient, and equally difficult for AI as well, systems to generate insights based on the comprehensive data. So that's where interoperability standards and networks become important. Technologies such as FHIR along with the broader data sharing initiatives or interoperability frameworks help create more consistent access to clinical information across system. For me, the goal is not simply data exchange, but making the right information available at the right time to support clinical decision making.
So, AI is a risk in and of itself, right? At least at this stage of the adoption, a lot of people look at AI as a huge risk. At the same time, what mitigates that risk is greater context of the patient, right? I can run AI inside of an EHR, but it still doesn't give me full context because my data is elsewhere, right? I might, and that important data might be elsewhere, right? So AI is as effective as the context and awareness that it has of that patient that is being cared for. With that said, you talk about in the article, and I'll read it again. In an enterprise healthcare system, AI must function as an invisible layer that enhances productivity without disturbing existing processes. Tell us a little bit more about what you think in that context, what you're trying to state in that context.
Sure, as we are talking about before as well, right? So we have all systems already linked up, or all our clinicians or our doctors used to have a system that's actually working. So whatever we AI invent or AI is getting into the clinicians or day to day in the healthcare needs to sync up with it. So what I was trying to highlight is that clinicians already operate in a very complex environment. They're managing patient instructions, documentations, order. If a AI shows up, another application or another dashboard, another workflow that hospitals or doctors have to learn, even if underlying technology is very powerful, clinicians may not use it consistently because it adds a friction to their day. It adds it instead of less burden, it's kind of more burden to healthcare or clinicians. When I refer to AI as an invisible layer here, I mean AI should work within the system and workflows clinicians already use. It should surface relevant information and automate to repetitive tasks or provide decision support at the moment it's needed, without forcing the user to have their existing workflow. We can connect that back to the interoperability, actually the point that we talked about as well. The more complete the patient context becomes through interoperability, the more useful AI can be. But that intelligence still has to be delivered in a way that feels natural to the clinicians. The goal isn't for clinicians to spend more time interacting with AI. The goal is for them to spend more time focused on patient and less time on all this documentation or whatnot.
Let me call out a not call out, but challenge you a bit on your thinking. You know, I've been involved with EHRs for over 20 years. A lot of quote unquote innovation has occurred under the umbrella of you have to work within the workflow,
Yeah.
as opposed to is the workflow broken? Or, and I'll go be more specific, is the EHR broken in the context of being purely, or some simplify it as a clinical note repository? Is do we inhibit? The question is, are we inhibiting the true power of AI because of the limitations of an EHR? And should the EHR be more of a data repository so, to build context and allow AI to do more of its thing as opposed to fitting within a workflow? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, actually, good question. I wouldn't say the thing is, if you are coming with a solution, we are not supposed to start from the ground up, right? So we have to inherit to the models. Whatever you ask, that's a fair challenge, and I would actually agree to some context. If we only focus on fitting AI into today's workflows, we risk missing the opportunity to redesign healthcare process altogether, right?
Yeah,
Historically, many healthcare technologies have been implemented by asking how do we fit into this EHR. I mean, today a lot of applications have that flow, rather than asking how should care be delivered in a modern flow, actually in upcoming modern flow. Those are
right.
different questions that we can ask. That said, I think we have to distinguish between adoption and transformation in the maybe near term, maybe not long, maybe near
Yeah,
term itself. AI has to meet clinicians where they are. Clinicians are already operating under significant workload, documenting
yeah, for
reporting,
sure.
time constraints. Long term, though, I mean, I do believe AI has a potential to fundamentally reshape how healthcare information is organized and consumed. Today, many EHR functions, I mean, primarily a system as systems of record, right? EHRs is just a record.
Yeah,
They're excellent
yeah,
at strong information. Clinicians often spend significant effort handling all the information. But the key point here is in the future model, the HR may increasingly serve as the trust source of data while AI becomes an intelligent layer that helps transform data into actionable knowledge. I don't think we have to choose we are choosing between workflow integration and transformation, I think they are stages of the same journey. First, AI needs to earn trust with existing workflows. Once that trust established, organizations can be rethinking workflows themselves. And also, it would be easy for clinicians or healthcare to adopt or deliver a care around AI-enabled capabilities.
Interesting. So I'm going to shift a little bit here because oftentimes healthcare, as you said in the earlier part of your conversation, there are some restrictions. It is a very complicated market, unlike any other market, and it is loaded with regulations. And there's nothing like 50 United States within America to have 50 different rules about how to do telehealth or how to do AI or how to do something, right? So it's complex. Hence brings me to the regulatory struggles and the ability to be really truly innovative, because sometimes regulatory is the blocker, right? So we often struggle with the balance between innovation and governance and
Yeah.
compliance and patient safety. So what governance framework do you recommend for deploying AI in a responsible, scalable way?
Yes. So the governance are even before the governance also, the governance and security has to be there for AI in the AI world actually. When you talk about having healthcare, to be part of AI or AI to be part of healthcare is one of the most regulated industries in the world, and for good reason actually. We are dealing with patient safety, privacy, clinicians outcomes, and ultimately end of the day human lives actually. That's what important. So don't view governance as something that exists to slow innovation. I view as something that enables innovation to scale safely. The challenge is that today many organizations treat governance as a checkpoint at the end of the development. That's actually not good. So they build
Yeah.
the solutions first and then ask questions about compliance, security, or even security or bias or even complexity, or the clinical oversight later. That often creates friction and delays. So what I have seen work best is when governance is designed into the system from the beginning. That means bringing together clinical stakeholders, technology teams, security, compliance, legal, and operational, all the leaders together and plan this accordingly. Well, for me, the governance is, I think, as a four stages. First, clinical governance, and second, data governance, and operational governance, and the human oversight has to be there. So that's human oversight. AI should augment clinical judgment, not replace it. Clinicals
Yeah.
need visibility into how recommendations are generated and the ability to apply their expertise when making decisions. We don't want to blindly follow without human oversight. I mean, sometimes I also think that some organizations see governance and innovation as opposite forces. In reality, the organization that scale AI most successful are useful, the ones with the strong governance, because they are built trust across clinicians and different organizations and also within the leadership teams.
Interesting. It's interesting to me when we talk about governance and compliance and patient safety. We talk about AI, and it's to me the general assumption is AI is the bad guy, right? AI is the one that's untested, right? But the reality is that if you look at the studies and the use of a probabilistic matching algorithm within an EHR, and you look at the studies about how bad data in an EHR has created a significant number, a shocking number, frankly, of medical errors. One could argue that the EHR is the problem and not AI, right? So it's all because everything that we do in healthcare, it's all about the data. I'm not. I don't want to turn this conversation into the host doesn't like EHRs, but the reality is that I want people to think about how AI is a viable enhancement to the delivery of care model, and let's not shoot it down when on this notion of safety when the EHR itself is known to have significant data challenges relative to record matching and just corrupted data relative to and a lack of data, even though it's an EHR. We talked earlier about my data is across multiple EHRs in multiple states. So if we can bring it together, interoperability, better data, and look at how AI can actually enhance, maybe correct
Mhm.
some of the flaws in the data, it becomes a more safer healthcare system than thinking that AI is the bad guy and it's going to bring everybody down. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I agree. Even we based on my experience, I do see the system sometimes generating some using the AI, today in model world, using the AI, they kind of AI kind of kind of give assumption results. It's not like accurate results, it's called assumption result. I know sometimes the conversation is framed as AI versus safety, when in reality, many of the challenges we are trying to solve already in healthcare today, you know, data quality, or I mean, from my perspective, AI should not be viewed as a replacement for good clinician practice or good data management. It should be viewed as a tool that can help organizations to make better use of available information and potentially identify the gaps, as you mentioned. That's why I agree with you. So
Yeah,
inconsistencies, patterns are difficult to reorganize. I also think your point about context is critical. AI systems are only as effective as, as effective as the information they can access and understand. The more complete and connected the patient record becomes through interoperability and data sharing, the more valuable AI can become. If you don't have perfect data, then AI won't help there, right? Where I
yeah,
believe, even we talked about the governance, right? Same will come, comes in not because AI is inherently inherits the problem. Governance exists because healthcare decisions have significant consequences. Actually, if you think about security governance, you know, because AI has significant consequences, and organizations need confidence in how technology is being used, how outputs are monitored, how accountability is maintained. Accountability is main. So that's what we need to focus on when we are using AI. In many ways, I see AI as an opportunity to help address some of the challenges that have existed today in healthcare for years. Better data connectivity, better maybe summarizing of information. It actually helps the potential risk, and helping clinicians navigate
yeah,
increased volume of information can all contribute to safer and more informed care delivery.
yeah. So let's talk to the adopters out there. So the question is, as AI capabilities continue to advance, what practical advice would you give to a healthcare executive who is building an enterprise AI strategy today?
Yeah. So let's say not, the practical advice today, we don't want to blindly follow the AI in all the flows, right? But also we want to use AI to help if for example, right now my first recommendation would be start with a business or clinical problem, not with
Yeah.
AI itself,
I
right?
was just going to ask you where should they start and where should they go from there? Yeah, sorry about that.
Yes. No, no worries. We'll start with the business or clinical problem, then not with AI itself. Right now, there is a tremendous excitement around AI outside, but the organization sees that most success aren't asking where can we use AI. So they're asking what are workflow, clinical, or operational challenge are we trying to improve. I would focus on the areas first. Invest in your data foundation. AI is only effective as the quality, accessibility, and completeness of the data it can utilize. Then, secondly, focus on the workflow. Look for the opportunities actually where AI can administrate burden, improve the information retrieval. And the next one is governance, right? Governance shouldn't be an afterthought. Governance organizations need to clear the process around evaluation, monitoring, even the security or privacy. We need to start from the beginning workflow itself. Even I also encourage executives to think about AI as a long-term capability rather than collective of small pieces or individual projects. The organizations that will benefit most over the next several years are building the foundations now itself. AI is maybe not ready, but starting now itself will be a good foundation for organizations, and perhaps most importantly, involving the clinicians from the beginning while they're using the AI or developing using the AI, because using the AI also for clinicians, it's a kind of a challenge for them. So we need to have AI to be meaningful impact.
Yeah. No, I agree. You got to start with the business problem. If you don't know the business, then there's no reason to add to modify it until you know it as best you can. So we're gonna leave the conversation there. Listen, bridging the gap between AI innovation and clinical workflow innovations and clinical workflows integration on Health IT Answers or healthitanswers.com. And the author is Tharun Kumar Nallamothu. So check that out. Tharun, I really appreciate you spending the time to walk us through your paper. I find it very compelling, and as I did your conversation, and I think that people would benefit from reading this document as they look to adopt AI within their enterprise. So, and hopefully we can have you back on the program soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tom, for taking your time, and I'm glad that we had this conversation. This will hopefully help a lot of folks out there who is thinking about AI using in their healthcare. I'm glad to be here and would like to meet again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe in that article there's links to your LinkedIn profile, and they can connect with you that way as well. Just
Definitely.
as FYI.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, and hopefully again we'll have you on soon to talk about other papers you have written. Take care.
A lot of exciting stuff here to share. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you missed any part of today's episode, you can tune in at the same time, 11 a.m. or 7 p.m. Eastern throughout the week. Be sure to check out the program page on healthcarenowradio.com, and remember to connect or follow me on LinkedIn, X, formerly Twitter, @FoleyTom, and follow the show's hashtag, The AI Shift. I'm Tom Foley. Until the next shift.